Hello, it's Dr. Cindy with this week's Mental Health Moment. I've spoken in other videos about the three primary needs that we come into the world with and which continue throughout the course of our lives. I call these the three C's: care, connection, and compassion. Care involves our physical, survival, and health needs. Connection relates to our social needs for affiliation with others. And compassion pertains to our emotional need for care and concern when we are experiencing distress. Today, I'm going to talk about our need for connection. This has been sorely tested and challenged with the increased isolation required over the past year due to COVID-19. But even before 2020, true connection with others has not always been so easy for many people. Loneliness has been on the rise for quite some time, which is counterintuitive given that we technically have many more ways to reach out and touch base with one another than we used to. Once upon a time, the only other options for social contact besides face-to-face interaction was a telephone call on the landline that you shared with everyone else in the house, or a written letter which enabled you to express your thoughts to another person but not get any immediate direct feedback from them. I remember many times eagerly and impatiently awaiting a return letter from whoever I'd written to, and the anticipation I felt going to the mailbox every day hoping to find a response inside. How far we have come from having to wait days and even weeks to hear back from a friend. Now we sometimes get impatient when we don't get a return text from someone within minutes of reaching out. I want to distinguish between contact and connection though. Whether it's running into a neighbor at the grocery store, stopping by a coworker's office to say hi, or responding to a post on Facebook, there are a variety of ways that we make contact with other people throughout the course of a typical day. Now, while engaging in these verbal or electronic opportunities for banter with a friend or colleague can certainly help with our need for affiliation, social contact isn't in and of itself sufficient to fulfill our need for connection. If you think about the people in your life that you feel closest to, that has developed as a result of meaningful interactions with them. Common interests and activities can certainly be a starting point for people to enjoy time with one another, but deeper relationships develop through shared emotional experiences. Providing support through challenging times, being a sounding board or listening ear for upsetting emotions, as well as working through and resolving conflicts with each other when they arise, all help and facilitate true connection between people. Connection facilitates a sense of belonging, and without connection, social interactions with others can feel empty or dissatisfying. We all have the desire to feel that we belong. We start life within a family unit, which forms our initial sense of being a part of something rather than being completely separate and alone. In fact, infants initially don't have a sense of themselves as being separate at all from their mother. As they get older and start experiencing themselves as a distinct entity, they go through a period of separation anxiety as they experience distress and want to maintain connection to their caregiver. Stranger anxiety also arises during infancy when babies begin to differentiate familiar from unfamiliar faces. This is part of the process of developing an understanding of their relationship with people who are in their lives regularly, in contrast to those who are not. You can see how this contributes to our sense of belonging within our own family constellation, as well as developing the concepts of us and other. Ideally, our experiences within our family unit help us develop a sense of security that our bonds with significant others are stable and based on mutual care and concern for each other. However, even within the most caring and loving of households, feelings of insecurity can arise based on the experiences we have and how we come to understand ourselves in relation to others. Anything that seems to jeopardize, even momentarily, access to our basic needs being met, again, needs for care, connection, and compassion from the people that we rely on, can feel like a threat to our very survival. When those situations arise, our brain seeks to protect us from having those experiences again, so it imprints into our memory those experiences to be drawn from for future interactions. As I've talked about extensively in other videos, the problem with this system is that it is based on our limited ability in early life to understand the reactions and behaviors of those around us. So the conclusions we come to about ourselves in relation to others will be incomplete and inaccurate. And the template that develops in our brain determines our self-concept, which we continue to fine-tune based on subsequent interactions and experiences as we grow older. But that fine-tuning is all within the context of whatever assumptions and conclusions we initially came to related to what aspects of ourselves are acceptable and lead to love and connection with others, and which ones we decide are unacceptable because we think they put our love and connection at risk in some way. So how does the deep desire for belonging affect us? Research suggests that when people are accepted, welcomed, or included, they feel happy, elated, calm, and satisfied. When we feel rejected or excluded in some way, that creates anxiety, jealousy, depression, and grief. The psychological pain caused by social rejection is so intense that it registers in the same regions of the brain as does physical pain. When we lose important relationships, including through the death of a significant other, those same feelings also arise. The desire to maintain our social bonds is so strong that it can keep us holding on to relationships that may be unhealthy and even hurtful to us. Any actual or perceived loss of an attachment relationship, whether temporary or permanent, jeopardizes our sense of belonging and can leave us feeling lonely and unloved. Note that I said actual or perceived loss of attachment. All of our experiences are filtered through the template in our mind about ourselves in relation to others. So, for example, two people can have the exact same experience of not hearing from a good friend for a significant period of time and have very different interpretations and perceptions about this, and therefore different reactions to it. One might figure that friend is busy and trust that they will hear from them again whenever the time is right. In this case, the person doesn't take the friend's silence as being a reflection on their own value or worthiness, or personal to them in any way at all, so it has no negative impact on them emotionally. They feel secure about the connection they have to their friend and don't feel the need for the friend to make contact with them as proof of that connection. When this friend crosses their mind, they might choose to initiate contact by sending a quick text to say they are thinking about them and hope they are doing well, just as a gesture of affection and appreciation for them. Whether or not they even get a response, it will feel good to have attended to their positive feelings about the friend by reaching out, and the simple act of doing so will enhance the feeling of connection. Now, the second person might feel slighted and hurt that the friend has not reached out and will interpret this as a sign that they are not important enough for this friend to take the time to make contact with them. They will likely feel hurt and angry, having negative reactions both about the friend and about themselves. In this case, the lack of contact is experienced as disconnection and a disruption to the sense of belonging. It arises from the person's insecurities about being worthy of love from other people, and not hearing from the friend is seen as evidence that confirms that deep fear. And to make matters worse, because of the painful assumptions this person is making about how the friend feels about them, they will be hesitant to do something to try to reestablish a sense of connection. Since they are already feeling rejected, the natural reflex is to protect against further rejection. So rather than reaching out to let the friend know they are thinking about them, which could facilitate reconnecting, they might continue to maintain the silence, which only adds to their loneliness and isolation and feeling rejected and unloved. As I talked about in last week's video, we tend to close our heart when we feel hurt by or angry with another person in an effort to protect ourselves from more hurt. Unfortunately, this increases the emotional distance and disconnection we feel and ends up denying us the opportunity to receive responses from the other person that could actually help to soothe and heal the hurt and provide reassurance that we are in fact cared about. Even when we can recognize objectively that the other person hasn't done anything wrong, when our deep sensitivities about our own worthiness and value are triggered, the vulnerability we feel makes it challenging to open our hearts and extend ourselves. We think we are sparing ourselves more hurt, but are really only prolonging it. When we feel disconnected and alone, we do not feel like we are part of something. Rather, we feel like we are apart from everything. So instead of having a sense of belonging, we will still be longing for connection and affiliation. So how do we create and strengthen that feeling of belonging for ourselves? One avenue is certainly looking at ways to cultivate deeper connection with the people that we have in our lives. If we are feeling lonely and isolated, it is up to us to take steps to take care of that need. And if we are interpreting our disconnection from others as them ignoring, neglecting, or rejecting us in some way, we have to work to override those inaccurate conclusions that do nothing more than deepen the pain of the perceived isolation. As much as we think it would be nice for others to have our needs at the forefront of their minds, we have to place them at the forefront of our own. We have learned over the years how to regularly and routinely take care of our physical needs, and we plan our lives accordingly to accommodate them. If you're going on a road trip and you anticipate being hungry, you pack food in order to meet that need. If you have to get up early one morning, you plan for that by going to bed earlier in order to get adequate sleep. So take some time to get to know what your needs for social affiliation and connection are, and then put plans in place to take care of those. That might look like scheduling outings with various friends at regular intervals, or making a point to touch base with at least one significant person in your life on a daily basis. And when feelings of loneliness arise, honor those as a cue that there is a need looking to be met, and attend to and take care of that just as you do when signals for hunger or thirst or other needs occur. And because contact does not equal connection, you have to do your part to make your interactions with others satisfying and meaningful. Emotions are what connect us, so conversations where you truly share yourself and what you are going through will facilitate more connection than superficial communications will. Now, that is not to say that you have to pour your heart out in every conversation in order for it to have value. But if you are hungry for connection, then you will want to look to satisfy that with interactions that are truly nourishing and sustaining, rather than ones that might help take the edge off but don't really fill you up. That requires you to know what the people in your life have to offer you and choosing who you reach out to based on that. But also be careful not to make assumptions about what those significant others are capable of. People can't know what you are looking for without you communicating that to them. So if you have a friend who always responds with advice when you share a problem, that might be because they think that's what you're wanting from them. But if you tell them you're really just looking for a compassionate ear, you might be pleasantly surprised to find that they are able to give that type of support to you as well. And if not, then you know in the future it'd be better to reach out to them more when you're looking for guidance about a problem, and that you should probably choose other friends when you are wanting emotional support. Even following these strategies for social interactions can only get us so far in fulfilling our need for affiliation and a sense of belonging. The third and perhaps most important piece involves our connection to ourselves. By virtue of that process of identity formation as we are growing up, we all have aspects of ourselves that we come to view as unacceptable early on, and we've learned to suppress and disregard them over the years. But as long as we remain disconnected from pieces of ourselves, it will be difficult to feel fully connected. How can we expect to feel loved, appreciated, and accepted by others unless we relate to ourselves in that way? We can only receive and enjoy what someone else has to offer us if we believe we are deserving of it. So even the most positive, loving, warm, caring, and attentive relationships in our lives will not feel like enough as long as we feel unworthy and unlovable deep down. Now, the problem isn't that there are things about us that make us undeserving of love. The problem is that we believe there are things about us that make us undeserving of love. And those are the very things that we try to hide from others out of fear that they would reject and abandon us if they knew. That's a vicious cycle, because if we don't let others know who we really are, then we can't experience them loving and accepting us for who we really are. And that perpetuates the belief that they only care about us because we have kept those things hidden. No amount of burying, denying, or covering up those things makes us feel better, because they aren't really the problem. And as long as we view them as a problem, we will feel damaged and defective. They are actually the solution, because they are the missing pieces that keep us from fully knowing and accepting ourselves. I read a great quote from Neil Donald Walsh the other day. What you are trying to find is yourself. If you do not go within, you will go without. What you are looking for can only be found within. So this means we will always feel like something is missing in our lives until we reunite with those fragmented and exiled aspects that are part of who we are. Otherwise, we are what is missing in our lives because we are estranged from ourselves. And that is the absolute loneliest place to be. Not to contradict Jerry Maguire, but no other person can complete us. We will continue to feel incomplete until we accept every single part of who we are, and we have to do the work to make ourselves whole. As long as we only look outside to others for connection, we overlook ourselves as not only a source, but also the foundation for connection. So how might you reconnect those dismembered parts of you? A starting point would be to set the intention of really wanting to know everything there is to know about yourself. Now, even contemplating this might create some anxiety, but that just comes from the self-protective mechanism that tries to spare you pain. It may require a leap of faith to trust that there is nothing you will discover about yourself that you don't already know, and a willingness to try to believe that everything that gets revealed provides a chance to be healed. In the external world, the closer objects are to light, the bigger is the shadow that they cast. Similarly, as you allow these hidden aspects of you to come to light, they may seem to overshadow your feelings and your entire perception of yourself. Do not allow yourself to be scared off by this. There is nothing within that shadow that can hurt you, and facing it enables you to see it for what it really is, rather than what you have feared it to be, and to right size it down to its appropriate proportion. The next step could be setting aside even 5 minutes a day to allow yourself to contemplate and write down things from the past that you have tried to forget. Again, the thought of that likely creates some anxiety. It can feel scary and unpleasant to look at the things that we've pushed down. Whatever they are, you've already gone through and survived it all. So anything that comes up now is just a memory. Since our brain holds on to experiences that cause us pain, this is a chance to actually soothe the pain and help truly put that situation or sensitivity to rest so that it no longer causes you to feel such unrest. Whatever memory emerges, write down what comes to mind, including any critical or judgmental thoughts about yourself. Remember, those thoughts aren't truths about who you are, but are faulty conclusions you came up with in an effort to understand experiences in your life. Putting it all on paper can help your brain more easily let it go, as it knows you have paid attention to the information and stored it elsewhere. And place your hand on your heart and try to connect to whatever emotions are related to that experience. These situations are not you. They are things you have gone through. Respond with care and loving attention to the version of you who felt those painful emotions. Speak directly about the feelings. Oh, you were so scared. You felt really ashamed. You were so embarrassed. Then provide compassion and reassurance. That was so painful. I'm so sorry you went through that. It's over now. You're okay. I'm right here. You're safe. Breathing deeply in and out through your heart can help release the emotional pain and intense energy of those experiences. And as they subside, you can imagine breathing in love, peace, safety, whatever feeling would be appropriate to replace the painful emotion. As you make this a daily practice, you will come to discover a greater sense of connection to yourself and hopefully a greater willingness to face and welcome any challenging feelings that might arise in the course of your day. These are all important clues about the sensitivities and vulnerabilities that you developed early on and can lead you to the parts of yourself that you've rejected. Critical and judgmental thoughts provide important information about how you developed your sense of value and worthiness, and what things you decided made you unworthy and unlovable. As you look at those now without all of those painful feelings attached to them, can you recognize how distorted and untrue those assumptions and conclusions are? Can you consider the possibility that no actions, interactions, or experiences make you unworthy or undeserving of love? When we allow ourselves to reconnect with experiences and emotions that we have tried so hard to push away, and work to accept all aspects of ourselves that we incorrectly thought made us undeserving of love, it is easier to appreciate and honor who we really are and trust that we always belong. Take care of yourself and have a good week.